Testosterone and estrogen are often spoken about as if they belong to different species, testosterone being associated with males, estrogen with females. But that's an oversimplification. Both hormones are essential in both sexes, and they exert profound influence not only on reproduction and sexual health, but also on mood, cognition, physical performance, immunity, and even how we respond to stress. Optimizing these hormones doesn't necessarily require pharmaceuticals or extreme interventions. In fact, the most powerful levers we can pull are embedded in our daily routines, specifically how we interact with light, how we sleep, and how we train. Let's begin with light. Light is the most powerful environmental cue that synchronizes our biological rhythms, otherwise known as circadian rhythms. These 24-hour cycles govern nearly every system in the body, including hormone production. Light enters through the eyes and hits a cluster of neurons in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is the master clock. When light hits the retina, especially short wavelength blue light in the early part of the day, it sets off a cascade of signals that tell your brain it's daytime, time to be alert, time to start generating the appropriate hormonal profile for being active, focused, and strong. A morning sunlight exposure, ideally within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking, can have a profound effect on testosterone and estrogen regulation. Cortisol levels spike in the morning, which is normal and necessary. This cortisol spike, contrary to popular belief, is not damaging. It helps you wake up, mobilize energy, and kickstart the release of other hormones, including luteinizing hormone LH. LH is the signal that prompts the testes in men and the ovaries in women to produce testosterone and estrogen. When the morning cortisol rhythm is flattened, when people wake up and stay indoors, exposing themselves only to artificial light, it blunts LH release and can dysregulate sex hormone production. Conversely, getting 5 to 10 minutes of natural sunlight, even on a cloudy day, anchors this hormonal rhythm and enhances the amplitude of testosterone and estrogen pulses throughout the day. This means sharper cognition, better libido, improved muscle protein synthesis, and more stable mood. It's not just the morning that matters. Viewing light in the late afternoon around sunset also helps buffer the system against the disruptive effects of artificial light at night. It tells the brain the day is winding down, allowing melatonin to ramp up appropriately in the evening, which brings us to sleep. Sleep is not just about rest, it's a critical phase of hormonal recalibration. During the deep phases of sleep, particularly during slow, wave sleep, the body releases the highest volumes of growth hormone. Growth hormone, in turn, promotes the synthesis and release of testosterone. In women, sleep helps regulate the fine-tuned feedback loop between the hypothalamus, pituitary, and ovaries, which governs estrogen release. Sleep deprivation, even for just one night, has been shown to reduce testosterone levels in men by as much as 10 to 15% the next day. Chronic poor sleep, defined as less than 6 hours per night, can cut testosterone levels by a third over time. For women, disrupted sleep patterns are associated with irregular menstrual cycles, reduced fertility, and mood volatility, direct consequences of erratic estrogen production. One of the key mechanisms behind this is that sleep is when the brain recalibrates the sensitivity of hormone receptors. It's not just how much hormone is circulating in the blood, but how well the body listens to it. Receptors become more or less sensitive depending on the prior day's activity and sleep. When we don't sleep well, not only do we produce less hormone, but our cells become less responsive to the hormone that is there. The downstream effects are sluggish motivation, poor muscle recovery, brain fog, and reduced libido. So how do we ensure deep, quality sleep that supports optimal testosterone and estrogen profiles? It begins with light exposure, as already mentioned. But just as important is temperature and timing. Cooling the body before sleep, whether through a cool shower, a reduction in room temperature, or even a cold plunge, can enhance the onset of slow-wave sleep. The ideal sleeping temperature for most people lies between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Darkness is also non-negotiable. Even small amounts of light, particularly blue light from screens or LED bulbs, can disrupt melatonin secretion. Use blackout curtains, eliminate unnecessary light sources, and if screen time is unavoidable, use blue light blocking glasses or shift your devices to night mode. Eating too close to bedtime also elevates core body temperature and can impair deep sleep. There's a direct relationship between how well we sleep and how efficiently the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, the system responsible for regulating testosterone and estrogen, functions. The general recommendation is to avoid heavy meals within 2 hours of sleep and to limit alcohol, which fragments sleep architecture and suppresses REM sleep, a phase crucial for emotional regulation and hormonal feedback loops. Now, let's talk about training. Physical exercise is one of the most powerful tools to stimulate testosterone and balance estrogen. But not all training is equal in this regard. Resistance training, particularly compound movements performed with moderate to heavy loads, has been shown to significantly increase testosterone levels in both men and women. The key is intensity and volume. Short bouts of high-intensity resistance work, squats, deadlifts, presses, performed in the 6 to 10 rep range with adequate rest between sets, create a surge in anabolic hormones. This acute testosterone increase after strength training doesn't just help build muscle, it feeds back into the system, signaling the brain and endocrine glands to maintain a higher baseline level over time. For estrogen resistance, training helps balance estrogen metabolites, encouraging a shift toward the more beneficial anti-carcinogenic forms. In women, strength training has been linked to improved menstrual regularity, better ovulatory cycles, and improved bone density, all under the influence of estrogen. However, there's a caveat. Overtraining, especially with excessive endurance activity, can suppress testosterone production and cause estrogen imbalances. This is commonly seen in endurance athletes and individuals who train intensely without adequate recovery. Cortisol is catabolic by nature. When elevated for extended periods without the buffer of recovery, it blunts the release of gonadotropin, releasing hormone estrogen RH, which in turn reduces LH and therefore testosterone and estrogen. This is why recovery is not optional. It is part of the training. Sleep, as already discussed, is a major lever. But active recovery techniques like sauna use, light aerobic activity, massage, or stretching also support the return of the body to a parasympathetic state, which is conducive to hormone regulation. Cold exposure, when used intelligently, can also enhance recovery, reduce inflammation, and support hormonal balance, although overuse, particularly right after training, may blunt some of the muscle-building signals driven by testosterone. Nutrition plays a synergistic role here. Dietary fats, especially monounsaturated fats from sources like olive oil, avocados, and certain nuts, are crucial for testosterone production, as cholesterol is the precursor molecule for all steroid hormones, including testosterone and estrogen. Micronutrients like zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D are also essential. Zinc is involved in the enzymatic reactions that produce testosterone. Magnesium enhances free testosterone levels, and vitamin D acts like a hormone itself, binding to receptors throughout the body to facilitate optimal function. Interestingly, vitamin D is synthesized in the skin through exposure to ultraviolet B light. So again, we return to the importance of light, not just for circadian rhythm, but also for micronutrient synthesis. Studies show that men and women with higher vitamin D levels tend to have more favorable testosterone and estrogen profiles, respectively. This is yet another reason to prioritize sun exposure and, when necessary, supplement during darker months. What about stress? Chronic psychological stress is a potent disruptor of hormonal balance. When the body is under constant threat, whether from work pressures, financial strain, or emotional conflict, it prioritizes survival over reproduction. Cortisol suppresses gene RH, which means the entire hormonal axis downstream gets muted. This can lead to low testosterone, irregular estrogen levels, poor libido, and mood disturbances. Daily practices like mindfulness, journaling, nature walks, or even simply carving out time for deep, unstructured thought can help bring the autonomic nervous system back into balance. It's important to note that hormonal optimization is not about maximizing testosterone or estrogen levels. It's about finding the rhythm and amplitude that's optimal for you. Too much testosterone can lead to irritability, aggression, hair loss, and cardiovascular issues. Excess estrogen, particularly unbalanced by progesterone in women, can lead to water retention, mood swings, and increased risk of certain cancers. The goal is balance and consistency, not peaks and valleys. In practical terms, we can summarize the protocols as follows. Get sunlight in your eyes early in the day, ideally within 30 minutes of waking. View light in the late afternoon to reinforce circadian anchoring. Make your sleep environment cool, dark, and quiet. Avoid screens and food before bed. Train with intensity but not excess, prioritizing resistance movements and allowing adequate recovery. Eat enough dietary fat. Focus on nutrient-dense whole foods, and ensure sufficient levels of zinc, magnesium, and vitamin D. Manage stress through deliberate decompression and parasympathetic activation. And most importantly, create a routine that is sustainable. The body craves rhythm, Hormones are not static. They pulse, they cycle, they respond to what we do and how we live. The beauty of these protocols is that they are not only simple, but powerful. By aligning your habits with your biology, you tap into a system that is already designed to thrive. You're not hacking your body, you're supporting its natural intelligence. Whether your goal is to build muscle, improve focus, enhance fertility, or simply feel better, the foundation begins with light, sleep, and training. These are the non-negotiables. When you get them right, everything else tends to fall into place. Let me know if you want a condensed version for a video script or need slides visuals to accompany this speech. In conclusion, optimizing testosterone and estrogen isn't about chasing extremes. It's about aligning your daily behaviors with how your biology is wired to function. The levers are clear. Expose your eyes to natural light early in the day and again in the evening. Build and protect high-quality sleep through environmental and behavioral cues, and train with purpose, balancing effort with recovery. These aren't hacks. They're fundamental biological rhythms your body expects. When you honor those rhythms consistently, your hormones respond in kind, bringing strength, clarity, energy, and resilience. These daily habits don't just improve hormone levels, they build a life of greater vitality, performance, and emotional stability. And that's a foundation worth building on day after day